Did you call the episode Game of Desolation of Thrones?
Yeah.
I know what we're going to talk about.
You're the one that tweeted it.
I had to talk about it. It must be discussed because the parallels are there. Actually, there's even stronger parallels to discuss from another dragon film that is famous to fantasy fans. So we have lots to talk about.
What, the one with Sean Connery?
No.
Oh.
No, Dragon Slayer.
I never watched that.
Oh, it's the best. The one from the 80s.
Yes.
Hey there.
Is there a way for me to turn off the sound out here if you're going to be talking about Game of Thrones potential things?
Oh, yeah. It's right next to the red laptop. Just turn the...
Okay, cool.
There's a little computer speaker.
I'm 2F's back. And
Okay.
Already heard
Yeah.
a spoiler today.
Oh, good. Well, Ben, that actually...
Hi, Stephanie.
That reminds me that we should have spoiler warning. So let's begin the show properly. Hello, everybody. Spoiler warnings. We're going to discuss a little bit of a dragon conversation.
We're going to talk all about dragons.
We're going to talk all about dragons. So that means if you guys are with us, you must bear with the spoilers of the Game of Thrones episode called The Spoils of War, which was Season 7, Episode 4, that was just broadcast. Hey, guys. It was just broadcast Sunday. So I apologize to...
everybody in advance.
I apologize to Adam Parker in particular, the extraordinary fellow who is the book manager for Meltdown Comics here in the heart of Hollywood.
Who graciously let us do this show every week.
Very gracious. And he's
6 years.
6 years doing the show here at Meltdown.
Episodes.
And we still have nerds walking in our studio saying, please don't spoil something that just happened. Oh, I love it.
You're the longest relationship I've ever had.
Oh, wow. Oh, wow. Well, you know what? Woulda, coulda, shoulda.
There's people in the... There's very
If you like it, then you should have put a ring on it. Justin, you should have put a ring on it.
I'm not going to put a ring on it.
We should have put a ring on it.
We started with a ring. The one ring
on it.
Hey, guys, if you're watching on Facebook...
Good to see you guys.
You're watching on Ustream or YouTube up here. I'm pointing at that camera. You might want to try going to our Facebook page today, or if you're watching on Twitter as well, Periscope.
This is unusual. Do we control that the camera looks at us or behind us?
I don't think that we control it. I think people control it. If you
really,
if you guys go to our Facebook page, we are streaming in 360 degrees
and 60
VR
degrees. That's how hot Dragonfire is. 360 degrees.
I don't know.
Isn't it?
I don't know how this is working.
It
I
looks
don't know,
good, guys.
I don't know if people are watching in 360, but
Hello,
if you're
everybody.
watching on your phone, you should be able to turn your phone sideways.
Yes.
From this to this when you click on our video on our Facebook page, and you should be able to look around our whole studio.
Our whole studio. Hello, everybody. Welcome to the OneRing.net/live.
I see Caroline. I see Vicky. I see Kaylin Griffin. Jeannie Bourgeois. Did I say that?
No, you did not say it right.
I still said it wrong. I'm so sorry.
Jen. It's Jen.
Jen Bourgeois.
Hello, Jen. I think I finally said it right. The joke is that I'm being playful and deliberately not saying it right ever. The longer that we can continue the joke, my dear Jen Bourgeois, the longer we can continue the joke, the better. But here's my co-host, Justin.
Hello, Helen.
This is Justin right here. He's our co-host. Me, I'm your amiable host, Clifford Broadway, with a rotating series of regulars coming through now. We've got Hannah, we've got the wonderful Chelsea.
On the first Tuesday to every month,
That's
it's
right.
Chelsea Schwartz from High Voltage Magazine.
Chelsea Schwartz.
And then the last Tuesday of every month, we have Hannah, who's popular on Instagram and Twitter as Silmarillion28. And we met Hannah because she was at the premiere in the fan cages of the Hobbit movies, and she was so excited because she met Philippa and Fran. Out of all the celebrities there,
yes,
she was most excited about Philippa and Fran, and she's just turned into an awesome co-host, and she's so wonderful.
She's a very talented young filmmaker who's really up and coming. Watch what happens in the future on the horizon for this young lady. And so, you know how nice it is to get some estrogen in the room. I have to say, having female co-hosts instead of this guy, instead of this old buzzard sitting here on my shoulder every week.
Ashley is watching the 360 awesomeness. Now, guys, please feedback to us in the chat room, in both chat rooms. If you go to our Facebook page, check it out on your phone, because it should be in 360, and you should be able to see our entire studio and see the setup that we have. It's pretty interesting. Now, on Facebook, I want to know, if you're watching in 360, do you start looking at us, or do you start looking at our studio and guest couch and stuff like that? Hey, Kyle says, where's Larry? Larry's in
Hey,
in
Kyle, where is Larry?
Salt Lake City.
He is in the very, very large metropolis, the sprawling metropolis
I
of
was
Salt
about
Lake
to
City.
say St. Luke City.
Oh my gosh.
St. Luke City.
Sarah Vorhauer in our Ustream chat says, whoa, this is so weird. I can see in front of Cliff and Justin
Really?
on the Facebook page and all the sound proofing around.
Yeah, okay, so you're
You see
seeing
the whole
it.
studio. It's working. Now, we can't vouch for what the desktop Facebook experience is like, but if you are
It
using...
starts on us. Okay, good to know, Nick.
That's good.
Thank you.
Thank you, Nick.
If you go to our Facebook page, it starts on us.
It starts on us. Facebook guys and gals, all the Ringer fans out there, welcome to Torn Tuesday, theonering.net.
Yeah, the mics are above us. You guys
theonering.net.
can see those?
Yes.
That's like literally above the camera,
Well,
and they can see the mics.
The camera can
above us.
pick up that mic. Well, there it is. Yeah, see, there's lights. This is the whole thing.
You guys, this is the magic. Maybe we should give a little tour. Here,
I'm actually wearing my, my kukui nuts from Hawaii, the Big Island. These are kukui.
so
You can
I'm
see
here-
them, guys?
So I'm here. Cliff's over there.
Whoa,
I'm
the
over
dude!
here.
This is crazy. Now we actually are splitting the show
We should do
across
the show like
this
this all the
platform.
time.
Now I can see this.
Now I don't have to smell you.
Wow! No, I don't have to smell you.
So
No, I don't
let me
have to
give
smell
guys a
you.
quick tour of what's going on. So we have a
This
little
is
camera
hilarious,
right here.
guys.
So this is our camera right here. It's a DSLR. It's the Panasonic Lumix.
Yes.
It's just a DSLR you can get. I think they're $300 on eBay. This is the GH2. It's an older camera, but it still checks out.
Yes.
This is what we use to watch the chat room. This
For-
is just a regular TV.
If any of you guys are watching on Ustream or on YouTube Live or on theonering.net/live, you may not be seeing anything but me right now, but you can hear Justin's voice in the background. That's because we're conducting a technological experiment.
That's right.
And our hotlines are open, 530-64-FRODO, and Justin's giving a little tour. If you're on Facebook, then you guys right here are seeing everything in
So
360.
This is our chat. This is just a 24-inch television. Now, Cliff and many other people wish that this TV was a little bigger. Right?
Yeah,
It
that
gets a
monitor
little
would
hard
be...
as-
The fact that you've inverted the text to have a black screen with white letters is much, much easier than otherwise,
But
believe me.
it needs to be bigger so we
Yes.
can see more of the chat room.
Yeah,
And of
sure.
course, this is our streaming computer. So this is how we see what you guys see on the chat room. So this
That's
is-
right.
this
Here's
is
a
just-
water... Yes, the water bottle is here. You guys can
It's a
see...
gaming machine. And then over here we've
This is
got
my
our,
iPhone
our
case.
cooling fan. It still gets hot in here. And then we have our iMac, which we sometimes use for chat rooms.
Yes.
And then I've got all of my Samwise Gamgee pops. We've got some boxes and stuff like that, Monster Energy drinks, and of course,
Here's
we've
our
got-
pops right here.
We've got some pops around here. So I'm gonna come back.
Oh, we've got some over here. We've got some over here. Wow, we're actually doing this show in 360. This is nuts.
360. Did you
Hey,
all
guys.
do this for my birthday, Cliff and Justin? Of course. We
Yes.
wanted to show you everything.
While we have a dragon conversation, we're sorry about the spoilers, but the new technology is kind of, exciting.
I'm sorry, I
It's really
realized you
cool.
couldn't hear me over there. If you're on the regular chat room at theonering.net/live, that's our regular chat room. theonering.net/LIVE.
Live.
And that's our regular chat room. You can see it's a beautiful page.
It is, and it has a lot of our social streams showing up. People, contributing on Twitter, Instagram. Hey, well,
Jamie Evans, hey, how's it going? So we're
What's up,
just
Jamie?
we've always been at the forefront of technology. We were before Twitch was popular. We were streaming. We did the road trips across America.
Yes, we did.
All live.
Yes.
3 times, I believe.
Yes.
And to Dragon Con, and I want to use this time to say I'm going to do it again. I'm going to drive to Dragon Con this year.
Are you driving to Dragon Con this year? That's fantastic.
I just booked the hotel room at the Hyatt.
Oh, good.
And so I'm going there. So I'm coming. I'm driving across America again. I think my friend Chris Saint is going to join me.
He's awesome.
He's awesome. He's been on television. He's a tattoo and artist to the star, piercing, body piercer to the stars. But
is.
he's just a geek like us.
I would love to join you guys on this trip, but I have many weddings to perform. Unfortunately, there's beautiful, beautiful people who need me to bless and solemnize their wedding vows. So I got to do my job. Can't be flying or driving rather across the country. You know what? It'd be like driving on the back of a wild boar. You guys driving like across
Well,
country.
it's going to be. I think
taking a
it's
big
gonna
old
be
war
fun.
pig across the country.
That's exactly what we're doing. But we'll talk a bit about it more next week. I'll show you the route. But basically, I'm going up to Yellowstone for the eclipse, which is going to be amazing.
Yes, it is.
It's a full
Yes, it
eclipse,
is.
2 minutes of darkness.
Oh my goodness!
Two
Wow.
full minutes of darkness at 11 in the morning.
I'm glad we're mentioning this eclipse.
So the eclipse is happening on
Wow.
the Monday the 21st. And so we're going to be at Yellowstone Grand Teton. But from there, I decided, hey, I can either drive back to LA or I can just continue on and make it to Atlanta. So I think I'm going to go to Yellowstone and then Glacier National Park. Then I'm going to go across to Minnesota and Fargo. I've always wanted to go to Fargo, North Dakota. And then I'll drop down to Chicago, your old hometown. And I want to see the Dinosaur Museum at Chicago. And there's some fans, some Torn people in Chicago I want to meet up. Ann is there, and several other people.
Oh yeah, fabulous people there. Yes.
And then I'm going to go across to Cleveland. I have family in Cleveland, and I love Cleveland. They got the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame.
Cleveland rocks.
So, and then from Cleveland,
Right, Drew Carey.
it's a straight shot down to Atlanta through Kentucky and Tennessee, straight to Atlanta. So
What
that's
lovely
my
country.
route.
That's
If you're
gonna
gonna
be
be, if you are on the route, we'll talk about it more next week.
Okay.
I'd love to stop by
That's awesome.
and see you guys, because basically between the 21st and the 30th, when DragonCon starts, I've got 9 days to do stuff around the country.
Visit fans around the country.
So I want to say hi to you. Like, those were such fun. Those road trips were such fun.
They really are. They were the most fun, and I still have the fondest
Don't let
memories.
anyone prank you, says Cliff. Woot, would be awesome to meet you at DragonCon. Caroline, if you're there, I'm going to be there. I can't wait to see you.
That's awesome.
I'm going to bring this VR thing with me, because this is amazing. Imagine if you're watching in 360.
Yes.
You can watch the road ahead of us, or you can watch us like geek out on just chatting
That's
and
pretty
listening
cool.
to music.
You'll just have to get an iPhone 6 that works.
So
Uh-huh.
I know. Yeah, we're using Cliff's phone because my phone is too square. It's hip to be square, but not if you want to do
Such a
360.
square. Well,
Speaking of fans, before we go any further,
before we go any further, I want to acknowledge the prank. Yes, I got pranked. Yeah, we'll get to that in a second. But yeah, everybody.
oh yeah, we talked about that last week.
Hardly. I'm telling you.
We showed the video.
Okay, out of sync, and no one could hear anything right.
Oh, that's right.
Guess what? Yes, I got pranked on a wedding that I did, and the little young actors who were on this Disney Channel show, they had me going. These kids were really smart and clever, and their performances had me fooled.
I'll meet you.
I was totally fooled. And by the way, I regret not being able to come with you on this fabulous trip to DragonCon.
I know, it's not going to be the same listening
This
to
man-
your voice for 24 hours a day.
Man. Oh, and smelling your farts 24 hours a day,
All
man.
day, every day in
All
the
day,
truck.
every day in that truck. Please open the windows. Oh, no, there's locusts. A cloud of locusts. Close the windows. I'd rather smell the farts than deal with the cloud of locusts
I
as
want
we
to do
drive
a
through
road
South
trip
Dakota.
around New England. I do.
I want to see you drive through a tornado and a thunderstorm like we
We
did
already
once.
did. We already did that.
I wanna see you do it again.
It's already. I crossed it off my list. Come on.
I love you. I know, seriously. You know, the eclipse, hey, we have to talk about the eclipse. It will come back into the dragon conversation because we will talk about the comparisons between the attack on the loot train, which was very much part of this episode of Sunday's Game of Thrones, versus Smaug and the way he destroyed Lake Town. We're going to get to that in a minute. But first...
Mithril Moon in the chat room is saying it works on my phone, but not on my laptop or through the website or through Facebook. So yeah, this 360 stuff is new. That's why we're trying it right here. We're trying it with you guys.
It's only designed for the Facebook app, evidently, and it looks pretty cool. Thank you for joining us.
So you know, you guys are so wonderful, but we're constantly getting fan mail here at Meltdown Comics.
Yes,
and
we
it's
are.
nice because we're at Meltdown. It's a public place. Like, you can send mail to it. If you send anything, if you want to send anything to us, just you can send us a painting, a note, whatever this is. I'm about to open it. Send it to Meltdown Comics in Hollywood, California. The address is easily Googleable. And just put it to me and Cliff or the OneRing.net or whatever, and we get to it. I mean, you've gotten airmail here at Meltdown Comics.
Nice. What is this?
So
A message in a bottle.
message in a paper.
Message in a bottle. I love it.
This is from Caroline Bradley
Caroline Bradley.
in Pennsylvania.
Yes.
I'll be near Pennsylvania. Maybe I can, if I'm close to you, Caroline. Maybe we can meet up. I'd love to. I'd
you
love
should
to
try
meet
that
you.
way.
So here we are.
That's pretty cool.
I just got this in the mail today.
Yes? Really?
I'm not here every day, so I don't know what day it came.
Aha!
Oh my God!
Look at this.
I've been looking for this forever.
Who is it? What is it? What you got?
You guys. Take the box.
Take the box. We're unboxing special exclusive on the OneRing.net. Da da da! Ooh!
Someone sent me the Balrog.
Balrog
Caroline,
power.
you're amazing. This is the one I've been looking for.
That is super sweet. That is super sweet.
Caroline, you're gonna be at DragonCon. Says you in the chat room. And are you the same Caroline that just sent me this amazing Balrog, which I've gone to 10 different stores on 13 different times?
And never found it yet? Oh, dude.
Are you kidding me? You guys are amazing. What, can I PayPal you for this? This is amazing. Like, this is Jeff Scott. What's up, lads? Someone just sent me the Balrog that I've been looking for. Jen says, yay Balrog, you finally got it. Found it at FYE for your entertainment store. They don't have those out here. That's amazing. Caroline, you are amazing. Thank you for sending this.
This is a beautiful thing.
Balrog.
This is a beautiful thing.
This goes with my
poor Bilbo.
little Nazgul. And it goes with my Smaug that you can see on the 360 stream. If you just spin the camera around, you can see Smaug. Gosh,
In fact,
this is
I'm
amazing.
going to spin the camera around just a second on our little app to see the...
Can you guys believe that Caroline found the Balrog and sent it to me? This is amazing.
Hey, yeah.
I can't believe it.
This is cool.
Should we open it? Should we play with it?
Yeah. We should totally open this up, dude. Totally.
This is a full unboxing.
A full unboxing. I'm so down. Yeah. See, there's our other Smaug and our exclusive Hot Topic glow-in-the-dark.
Mithril Moon says, am I the only one that has drunk pops because they're always falling over? I don't know, because I keep mine in the box if you haven't noticed it. And you can see all the pops on our live stream right now. I still have mine in the box.
And there's some up there, up on the shelf, yeah.
Focoena says, I'd love to meet Cliff and Jessica, but we'll have to be when I get to the U.S. again. Absolutely. Please come to L.A.
Yes, please do.
John Ruddy just came to L.A., first time in L.A., and he came on the show last week, and he's such a great guy.
And he's written a great article that's on the main page of the OneRing.net, talking about Azog, and a really interesting analysis. You got to see John Ruddy's story on the One Ring.
This is a two-part plastic case. And look at this.
Oh, buddy.
This is so amazing.
There you go.
It like the whip. It doesn't translate onto camera, but the whip is translucent, so you can actually kind of see through. It's kind of like as translucent as a shower curtain.
This is actually one of the coolest designs. And there's also translucent flames at the top.
The flames are translucent. The whole thing is a little bit rubbery. You think of pop vinyls as like, immovable objects, but there's a little bit of give on the wings. Yeah. So it just feels, and look. So
it won't snap or break. It has to have a little give.
Look, the head moves.
The head turns. Yeah.
The head turns.
On many of the Funko Pops, the heads rotate.
And do the hands turn?
Nope, just the head. Usually it's just the head.
Yeah, just the head.
One of our friends on Twitter took a photograph of this Balrog from outside daylight coming in from the back window, and it went right through the flames and the flaming whip, and it made the translucent plastic look quite luminous. You should try it.
Said,
really cool.
Caroline sent me this, and she's in the Facebook chat saying, I'm just outside of Philadelphia, but I leave for Georgia on the 30th. If you're going to be at DragonCon, I will just see you there. I'm still determining my route. Nice. I don't know if I want to go straight down and do like a Kentucky bourbon tour, or if I want to go west and go to that desolate wasteland of Mordor known as Washington, D.C.
Oh my gosh, I know. No, if you and Chris Saint are in the same vehicle together, you're going to end up taking the bourbon tour. We know it's true.
This is amazing,
I know
guys.
It's true.
Caroline,
I love this. This is really
you're
nice.
Amazing. Thank you for
nice.
sending. Thank you for finding this. This is so cool. I've got a Balrog. So
you got a Balrog. Congratulations!
Does this complete my bad guy collection? I've got the Twilight Ring Wraith.
Yeah.
I've got a Nazgul, and I've got Smaug. So, do I need 7 more Nazgul? There's 9, right? And the Witch King is one of the Nazgul.
8 of these, and then one of those.
So I need 7 more Nazgul. How much are they? They're $10.
You don't need
7.
Any fan who buys that many to have a complete set is a true blue fan. A true blue fan. Really true.
Well, I'm just trying to collect. I've decided I only want to collect the bad guys of Lord of the Rings in the pop vinyl. And
Ooh.
so I want to...
Wow.
So I need 7 more Nazgul.
Very fun. Very nice.
Yeah, because you don't think that they're going to create different Nazgul, right?
No, they're not. So you don't need to... I mean, any one of them could be any one of the others. How are you ever going to tell them apart?
What about Saruman? Oh, I got Saruman. Hold on.
I mean, I'm not even sure Professor Tolkien could tell them apart.
Since we're on 360, I can... Wait, I thought I had Saruman.
You did have Saruman. Of course you do have Saruman.
I have Saruman.
Yes.
Look, if you're watching on 360...
That's my favorite. I love Saruman.
Look, I do have Saruman. So
Oh,
I've got Saruman, the Twilight Ring Wraith, the Nazgul, and now I have the ultimate bad guy.
Oh, wow. We're going to have to open this on another show.
I just bought Gandalf the past week. Dave Gentry, he is awesome. Gandalf, yeah, it looks like battle damage. What's up, my dudes? What's up, Randall?
Hey, guys.
Watching
Welcome
on
to the show.
360. So, man.
I'm telling you, this technology is driving us to
It's
a whole new
crazy.
point of, like, amazement. Wow. I'll tell you what, guys. Before I'm going to get to this next week, because I'm going to need my reading glasses for this. This is from Stargate Geek. My very, very dear friend,
Oh, my goodness.
Emily. This is from Stargate Geek, and I know what's inside, but I don't have my reading glasses today, so Grandpa is going to have to say, wait a minute, we'll open up that next week.
We love getting fan mail. You know, that's
I
how we
love
met the
getting
Happy
fan
Hobbits.
mail.
Kelly and Alex, we met the Happy Hobbits after they had
Yes, we
sent
did.
us fan mail. They had actually sent us... Hold on. Wait.
What?
It might be... Is it here?
What, the original artwork that Kelly and Alex sent to us? No way. Can it be?
Yes, it is.
Oh!
Yes, it is.
Oh no!
Kelly would be so embarrassed.
Oh gosh, it's not quite faded away yet. Oh.
It's been in a dark attic, but Kelly
This is so
used to watch.
hilarious.
Like a lot of you, I think Pete Northerner, I think you discovered us while we were on the road trips. The Happy Hobbits discovered us on the road trips.
This is
And
hilarious.
so Kelly and Alex, before they were known as the Happy Hobbits, they were watching us all the time, and Kelly actually mailed us here at Meltdown Comics in Hollywood, California, a watercolor painting of me and Cliff.
This
And the
is
note,
hilarious.
the note that came with it was, I draw you while I'm watching you.
I draw you while I'm watching you. This was from Kelly and Alex. I can't believe this. This is too much. This is just so funny. This is funny to me. I'm showing it to this camera, and I'm going to show it to you guys too. Too faded. I don't know if you can see it, but there's
There it is.
There it is. The beautiful watercolor likeness.
Hey, Vicky says
Justin and
Baltimore
Oh
is
my
to Jen
That's hilarious.
is where I live. Wait, so you're telling me Jen Bourgeois and Vicky are both in Baltimore area? Tell me yes in the chat room.
Wow.
If you tell me that you guys are in Baltimore, I might have to go to Baltimore because
might
I
have to go
love
to
The
Baltimore.
Wire. First
Yes.
off,
Yeah,
so
yeah.
I love a little bit of danger. No, that's racist. I don't want to be that.
He
But
also loves a lot of hairspray.
yes,
He loves John Travolta in drag.
no.
Good morning, Baltimore.
Oh, my
yes,
gosh.
if you want some Baltimore, you need to go visit Baltimore.
Aravandi
dude.
says, I discovered
They
you
got
guys
good
on
food.
the road to Dragon Con 2013. Jeff Scott says, I followed you guys on the road to Dragon Con. Look, so many people discovered us on the road to Dragon Con.
The legacy of Road to Dragon Con still lives on, and it impresses me still to this day. And I regret not being able to go this year, but I have matrimony duties to attend to. But you guys stay tuned, because this guy, Justin, my buddy, and believe me, Chris Saint, he's hilarious. And he's as foul-mouthed as ever. God bless him. He used to be the host of what was it? The drunk
Tattoos After Dark and Drunk Shopping Network.
Drunk Shopping Network. Yes, the Drunk Shopping Network, which was one of the best things we've
North
ever
of Boston.
seen.
Okay, I'm not getting up there. Atlanta represent. Yep, I'm going to Dragon Con. I'm going to see you
Yep.
there. If you're in Atlanta,
Oh my
let's meet
gosh,
up.
I want to go to Atlanta. But anyways,
It's going to be amazing. Hey, and you
before
know...
we get completely sidetracked.
Yes, go ahead.
Before we get completely sidetracked, did we not see some fire, brimstone, and destruction, dragon style, a few days ago? Did you see it?
Oh my gosh, I did.
What do you have to say, sir?
You know,
What say you?
I say that episode was like a combination of the ending of the Two Towers
Yeah.
and the beginning or the beginning of the last Hobbit movie. It was basically
Yeah.
the Desolation of Smaug plus the Ride of the Rohirrim.
Yeah, there
It
was
was-
some serious, like, whoa. But is it not possible for us to talk about this as fans and still be peaceable
That was
fans
Mi-
between
Marvel's,
different fandoms?
That was it. That's it. Yeah, we
What
were
was
on
that,
the road
Marvel's?
we were on the road to DragonCon when we stopped by Larry's house and showed his collection.
This is true.
I would love
Yes.
to stop by. You know what? We're doing it again, but we're not with Larry. We're doing it with our collectibles editor,
Josh.
Josh.
Yes, Josh Long.
Josh Long. We are going to his house near Kansas City, Missouri, because he has a collection that puts everybody to shame.
That's going to be a highlight. That will definitely be a highlight of the Road to DragonCon. It
Yeah,
certainly
totally.
will. But it looks like I put a poll up. I did. I put a poll up on the OneRing.net, and I said, which Burn 'Em All Alive scene was better? And maybe my poll didn't have enough choices in it, because I should have put in a mention of the original 1981 Dragon Slayer. Maybe I should have put in a mention of Reign of Fire with Christian Bale.
No, nothing compares to it. This was a
Maybe- but it-
literal Lord of the Rings comparison.
It had to be. To me, I thought that was the basic nuts and
everything
bolts.
about this episode. Now, if
And
you haven't watched it
I
yet, now
said-
a lot of people were telling us, but let's pause for a sec.
Spoiler warning.
We are going to keep the spoilers to a minimum.
Yes.
So we're going to tell you the abstracts that you already know because you're on Twitter and Facebook. Okay.
You know that there's a big action scene.
You know there's an action scene and there's dragons. So we're not going to go into specifics of who did what where.
That's right. And we
But-
will not go into specifics of anybody dying, no fatalities.
No.
No, we won't mention any heroic rescues. None of those things. In fact, actually, there weren't any. There
No.
were no heroic rescues and there were no deaths.
Right.
So guess what? We're not going to spoil
This
anything.
is totally
Okay?
abstracts.
Yes.
All we're saying is that when I tweeted out or I posted on Facebook a picture of the Dragonlance from The Hobbit and people thought it was a spoiler from Game of Thrones. No, that was just Girion. That was a screenshot of Girion fighting Smaug.
Oh, yeah,
As
that was-
a flashback
Oh,
of
yes.
Desolation of
Well,
Smaug.
Girion, old Lord of Dale, before Dale was destroyed, was played by Luke Evans himself. Right? Right.
Was he?
It was Luke Evans
Okay.
under a ton of prosthetic makeup. That was Luke Evans playing Girion
Okay.
in those scenes.
Now,
Yes.
what my disappointment here is that in Game of Thrones, our last episode, we were shown a giant dragon lance,
Yes.
and they're, under the thing, and then we see it in action this
Underground,
time.
yeah.
So in The Hobbit, we were shown the giant dragon lance,
Yes, the same thing.
the same thing,
yes.
and we were
It was
never
called a wind lance,
a wind lance.
if I'm correct.
We were never given the opportunity to see that wind lance in action, and I feel like that would, as much as I enjoyed the
How
Hobbit,
about that? We did not even see Bard use the wind lance.
I wanted that. I
thought
wanted
that's
that
where
more
he was
than
going to go. There was one on
Yeah.
top of the house of the master, right? I thought that's where he was going to end up.
and instead they come up with this cockamamie like, don't move, boy.
Right.
Don't breathe, boy. A little to the left, boy. Like, no, a son, a little boy does
That
not
didn't sound
make the same. That is not the equivalent of a wind lance.
No, it's
A war
not.
machine.
But that wind lance was essential, and where did you see it? In the flashback sequence where Balin explains the story. Bilbo says, "You look like you saw a ghost," and Balin says, "He has." And then he tells the story about how that wind lance was used and it failed. And the young lad who plays Bane, who
Yeah.
is Bard's son,
That's right.
he comes up and he says, "Oh, but he did. He did. He succeeded in hitting and took a chip off the beast." And everyone's like, "Nah, nah, nah." And Dwalin, Graham McTavish says, "Nah, that's just a fairy tale, lad." And I'm like, that was the only bit we get to see of that wind
But
lance.
the annoying part is that why would you go through the effort and the valuable screen time of showing anything on screen, and why would you show that wind lance and go through tell that whole story
And
and
not use it.
then not pay it off
Yeah.
by using the I want to see Bard surrounded by fire
Yeah.
with a wind lance, ready to go. So to that, I give Game of Thrones credit for setting something up last episode and delivering this episode. The Hobbit, you set something up
And didn't deliver it.
you didn't deliver it.
Interesting comparison. I had not thought about it on that level. I want to talk about the philosophical point.
Okay.
Because in Twitter, one of our very eager fans, who has a very legitimate point of view, as well as anyone does, said that any Tolkien fans who vote on that poll and said that you prefer Lannisters being burned alive by Drogon instead of preferring Smaug scene, that you're a traitor
Dave, I'm with
to
you.
Tolkien fandom, right? Now, but how could that be? And I'm not so sure about anybody who makes categorical statements, like sweeping statements saying, if you say this, then you've abandoned your fandom. Well, I don't know about that. I mean, you and I can be Tolkien fans, and you can appreciate a TV show, some stupid TV show, you can appreciate it. That doesn't mean you have to disavow the power of Tolkien and the effectiveness of the original. I get much more mileage out of the original Hobbit chapters of Fire and Water, and seeing how Bard gets a message from the little bird. The thrush takes a secret message from Bilbo. Peter Jackson never gave us that element of the story. It was never there. There are full-on conversations that Thorin has with the talking raven. We don't get that in the Hobbit film. I like the way that the dragon dies in the book, and I can still appreciate that the Game of Thrones episode may have done a more spectacular job of taking soldiers and crisping them to ash, and it was more visually interesting than maybe what Peter Jackson did. Can I be a fan of both? I'm just saying, from a philosophical point, you can be a fan of both. There is room for all fandom. And the person I was speaking with said, wait a minute, George R.R. Martin attacks Lord of the Rings and is forever under Tolkien's shadow. And that's a whole different level of conversation. Maybe, yes, George R.R. Martin knows the inevitable that he is always going to be under the shadow of Professor Tolkien.
And he is.
But that doesn't take away the merits of what Game of Thrones and his book series, A Song of Ice and Fire, also achieves. I mean, do you feel that Game of Thrones fans can't get along with Lord of the Rings fans?
I feel like there's a lot of.
I think they can.
I think there's a lot of negativity between the fandom. I feel I think that Lord of the Rings versus Game of Thrones has turned into what Star Wars versus Star Trek used to be. And this Trek versus Star Wars thing has calmed down in recent years. Now that we're getting movies and TV shows from every angle.
Hi, Ellen.
But I think Star Wars versus Star Trek, those were infinite nerd debates forever.
Yep.
Right?
Yep.
I think finally, to Game of Thrones credit, HBO and George R.R. Martin, finally, out of all of the fantasy stories that have come out for the last 80 years after Tolkien, that we finally have a worthy opponent, I would say. Like, you say Game of Thrones versus Lord of the Rings, and everyone has an opinion now.
I would say a worthy scion.
Yeah, perfect.
Yeah.
So I feel like Star Wars versus Star Trek is Game of Thrones versus Lord of the Rings. You can like both, but I really appreciate that that Lord of the Rings now has a worthy scion, and it is worthy. It is really well done.
Yes.
And it is definitely rated R.
It's definitely rated R, but some fans, like perhaps the engagement level that I'd like to see among fandom is not. One person said that Game of Thrones fans attack Tolkien all the time, mercilessly, as if Game of Thrones fans, as a general population of fans, are dismissive of ringers and totally dismissive of Tolkien and his effectiveness. And I'm like, I really don't think I've encountered that. Have you guys? I have never encountered that hostility from Game of Thrones fans against Tolkien nerds. I've never felt that.
I've seen it online a ton, and I will say
have
this:
Have you seen it? Because I haven't seen that.
We talked about this,
and that makes no sense because Game of Thrones wouldn't exist without the legendary breakthrough work that Lord of the Rings brought, giving a breadth of space where Game of Thrones could exist. You know what I mean? They are artistically connected. There is a causal connection between the existence of one and the other, to me. I don't see why any fans would be dismissive of the other.
Okay, you're right. It's like
That's
saying
just
that
me.
You can't be a fan of Narnia if I'm into Lord of the Rings. Well, I don't think that conversation ever happened, and one reason why is C.S. Lewis and Tolkien were friends. So I think there is definitely with Narnia and Middle Earth
rivalry and friends.
It
was weird.
They're total friends. And,
yes,
and Tolkien
told
Lewis
did not
publish.
like Narnia. He told his friend like how much he disliked Narnia in general, but he supported him. He supported him, and he supported it. And guess what? His buddy Jack Lewis C.S. Lewis, he supported his buddy Tolkien and wrote rave reviews of Lord of the Rings when it came out. Even though that they prickled against each other with creative differences,
That's right.
they were not polarized against each other until one thing happened. Sorry, until one thing happened. Until the time when famous atheist C.S. Lewis became a Protestant. That was the only thing that really broke down their friendship, to be honest. But that's a whole nother story. But if you guys get the meta conversation, what I'm driving at is that it is entirely possible for me to look at this episode of Game of Thrones and this 19-minute action sequence, breathtaking 19-minute sequence of battle, of Dothraki riding over the hills, a huge cavalry scene that reminds me of what? Rohirrim. Dragon that reminds me of what? Smaug. What else am I deeply reminded of? Vermithrax from the early 80s fantasy epic Dragon Slayer.
I never saw that.
There's a shot.
Let me watch
there's
that.
a shot where Drogon is hovering like this and holding his wings, and he's blowing horizontally across the screen and burning everything. It's an exact shot from Dragon Slayer where the Lake of Fire is seen underground and Vermithrax is encountered in all of its stop motion glory. It's really impressive. You guys look it up, the original Dragon Slayer.
Annika, you're absolutely right. Now, I wanted to say
Bring
that like everyone's comparing the Smaug to the dragon scene, but the thing that came to my mind first is of yesterday's game or this week's Game of Thrones is the battle for Helm's Deep, and not just the battle for Helm's Deep, the journey to Helm's Deep. So, if you remember in the journey to Helm's Deep, when Rohan empties and we must make our way for the deep, they bring all of the food and supplies. Basically, it's a food caravan of women and children and carts of food. Like, they are making their way with food and stuff.
Siege goods.
Yeah,
they know a siege is coming.
They know a siege is coming, so they're making to the deep
and all the provisions
where there is no food or anything. With all the provisions.
Yes.
And then they were attacked by wargs.
Yes.
So the same thing happens here in Game of Thrones, where there's an entire group of people, a partial army, that are bringing food. It's, what do they call it? A food caravan? Is that what I forget the term they used in the show, but it's basically, they call it a food caravan. They're emptying the food from this castle to that castle.
It was called the spoils train.
The spoils train. There you go. Food train, a spoils train.
I think that's what it was called.
Of course, there's no trains, mechanical trains in
Not a mechanical train.
It's a train of horses and people.
There's a term for it. It's called the visual effects people who were interviewed talking about how much work they did on the pyrotechnic scene.
Yeah.
You know, they had to burn a lot of living actors to film that, really, to make it look the way it looked. And I saw it. It was a really great 17-minute behind-the-scenes sequence.
But didn't it feel like
really cool.
the march to Helm's Deep, where you had a bunch of people on an open plain?
Yes.
Carrying food.
Yeah.
You know.
Yes,
and
it
then,
did.
And then
did
suddenly
feel like that.
they hear something in the distance, and what is coming? And then suddenly, boom. There's a giant army.
Yeah.
You know. So that's what it felt. But then, so not only did it feel like the wargs attacking, but then it felt like the Rohirrim coming. And as a few people on Twitter pointed out, unlike the Desolation of Smaug, and unlike the warg battle, you're actually rooting for the dragon. A lot of people were like rooting for the dragon, and wanting the dragon to win at all costs.
The loot train attack.
Loot train attack.
Everybody in the internet, in the world, is referring, even HBO is branding it as the loot train attack.
Yeah.
That's what they call it on the production. How interesting, though, that you want to root for both characters, Jaime Lannister and Daenerys, at the same time.
Yeah.
Well, in Helm's Deep, you did not root for Saruman on the other side.
No.
You did not.
It was definitely a bad guy. But
this is
same
more
with
interesting.
Smaug. No one rooted for Smaug.
No, you didn't.
No.
Smaug was just being a sadist.
That's right.
Daenerys is trying to do something specific and strategic.
And so we got to give credit
the
to
motivation
George R. R.
behind-
Martin. Well, maybe not Martin himself, but we got to give credit to Game of Thrones. Is that they've made the bad guys, the dragons, which should be the ultimate evil, relatable.
Yeah.
Whereas Smaug, who actually spoke, who we should fall in love with, Benedict Cumberbatch, Peter Jackson, Fran and Philippa's words out of Benedict's mouth with the Weta workshop, but we still, like, he comes off as a sadist, as you said. Like, just doing stuff out of spite.
Here's why I want to mention this. I was watching The Desolation of Smaug last night with a good friend who I'm introducing to the Lord of the Rings and the Hobbit films. And I've had this conversation with many people. I started him, newbie, total noob, sorry to say this, but totally inexperienced. Never seen any franchise films like this.
Just like Vader. We rooted for Vader at the end of Rogue One.
You do vote, yes.
And we root for the dragons now.
You do now, yes. See how switching that is? Now, you switch these things around, and interesting point, but when I introduced this film to Jarrell last night, and Daniel and I were all a bunch of friends, and at the attack scene, the attack that was about to come, and he flew off into the distance in the very last shot of Desolation of Smaug, he said, why is he going off to kill all those people at Lake Town? Why is Smaug doing that?
It doesn't make any sense.
Why doesn't he just stay here, burn these dwarves alive that are in the mountain, and then be done with it? And I said, well, because Smaug is a sadistic douchebag.
But they're they're the dwarves. The humans did not raid his horde.
He believes that there was complete connection between a plan or collusion. Dare we use that word? There was collusion between the people of Lake Town and Thorin and the dwarves, and Smaug believed that he would emotionally and psychologically devastate Bilbo and the dwarves by killing everybody in Lake Town, and it would be effortless.
So fake news. Smaug was running on fake news.
Exactly. And I had to explain to my friend the psychology of the dragon at that moment when the film was about to have its dramatic cliffhanger ending. And my friend was scratching his head at the motivation of the dragon flying off to, burn everyone alive. And I'm like, because he believes they're responsible for this, people invading his privacy and coming to mess with him. So he wants to go get the culprits. And he's a sadist, believing that the great pleasure is all these little people, little dwarves in the mountain, watching their friends suffer and burn. It is not easy to explain Drogon, because Drogon is just a beast. It's Daenerys Targaryen psychology you're more interested in, not the beast itself. Yeah. So we're having a very different conversation because Smaug is a genuine character with his own motivations. Game of Thrones does not have the benefit of a psychologically complex monster.
So why are we rooting for Drogon?
Because we root for Daenerys. Because we know what she's been through. We know that she deserves to come back and have her claim on the throne.
Hey, we got a question in the chat room. A lot of people here have not watched Game of Thrones, and look, I'm with you. I didn't watch it until this summer, and it was work getting through all those episodes. I tell you what, everything that Game of Thrones is known for is in the first season. So the other 4 or 5 seasons that I sat through, it felt like work. It was painful. Basically, you could probably watch the first season, and then you could watch the 5th season and be caught up. Anyways, there was a question from Aravandi. What are the White Walkers? Are they pale undead, or
the White Walkers is just that world, that term within that world for the undead.
Yeah, it's the undead. Are they from a certain area? Yeah, they're from the north.
They're from the frozen north.
Where battles used to happen, and there's a lot of dead people in the ground.
But they were created by,
So would you say like the paths of the undead, or the paths of the dead, or would you call this like the dead marshes? Like what's your comparison when you're? What's a White Walker?
White Walkers don't have a direct comparison that easily, because we don't know yet about their origin. I mean, the mystery of the children of the forest.
They just come up from the dead.
Well, there's all the stuff like the glyphs and the spirals that Jon Snow and Daenerys saw in the cave. And those are like the evidence in the cave about, the children of the forest. But we don't know yet the connection of how the children of the forest created the White Walkers, and we don't know why it happened.
So that big
we just
white,
don't know why yet.
Big white bluish dude that you see on all the advertisements for Game of Thrones, the king of the
with the evil blue eyes. He's called the Night King.
He's called the Night King. That is basically the king of the dead.
Yes.
That Aragorn makes a deal with.
Maybe, but Aragorn makes a deal with someone who has far more benevolent intentions. The deal that Aragorn strikes is with a disturbed spirit who would like to have its oblivion. Okay, you have White Walkers who do not want their oblivion. They want to come back onto Earth and mess with the living and not.
Well, we don't know their motivations yet because they are
just wanna mess with the living.
derivative of the Children of the Forest. So we don't
know what about that is
we
yet.
don't know about it, but
No,
we
we
do
do
know
not know yet.
if you've seen the commercials and you've seen the pictures like I have, the big white bluish dude with the piercing blue eyes that looks like a zombie, he's just like the King of the Dead. For most part, until we find out what happens.
I don't know about that comparison.
Ring wraiths. Would you call them ring wraiths? Not really. They're not really
the White
dead
Walkers
kings
they're animated corpses.
They're animated corpses.
And we do not have any animated corpses or zombies in any of Tolkien's mythology.
We just have ghosts that can fight like real people.
Yeah, we have. Well, yes, that's right. Exactly. Now, here's the question that was there in our chat a second ago. How did I defend the use of the Wilhelm scream in the Dol Guldur sequence with Thrain being rescued and the failed attempt at rescuing Thrain? Well, no. I could not ever defend the use of the Wilhelm scream. I don't like it in Helm's Deep. I do not like it in the Desolation of Smaug. Peter Jackson made a pretty serious mistake allowing his sound editors to use any Wilhelm scream
not funny,
at all.
It's not
funny.
appropriate.
It's terribly distracting, and it destroys the artifice of the movie in any case wherever it's used, and it should never be used by anyone ever, ever, ever again. So, it is not a defensible position.
It's worse than Ed Sheeran in an episode of Game of Thrones.
Talk about pulling you out of the reality of it.
Yeah, totally. Which, I like Ed Sheeran. I don't know why everyone feels like he's overblown and overexposed. I loved him in the episode.
He's cool. Ed Sheeran is cool in everything.
Yeah.
He's got the Midas touch. I think he's cool.
What are the Barrow Wraiths in the Barrow Downs?
Oh, the Barrow Wights. Well, the Barrow Wights... that might be as close as we've ever gotten to White Walkers or undead. I'm glad that you mentioned that. Really glad you mentioned that, because the Barrow Wights seem to be...
Where would people know the Barrow Wights?
They're in the chapters in the Fellowship of the Ring.
Okay.
After the hobbits encounter Tom Bombadil, they go wandering on their own through the Barrow Downs. They get lost in the hills because the hills become enshrouded by evil supernatural fog. And then the undead cast their spells of sleep and charm the hobbits, Merry, Pippin, Frodo, and Sam. And the Tom Bombadil has to come and rescue the hobbits from deep underground in a crypt, a dark vault of the dead. And under that crypt, in a barrow, which is underneath the hill, that barrow is where the old kings of Cardolan and Rhudaur, the kings of Arnor, the kingdom in the north, it seems to be that their princes and kings were laid to rest in those graves in the Barrow Downs, and the evil power of Angmar, the Witch King himself, who we have in this box right here, the Witch King seems to have had the power to animate the dead and to make those Barrow Wights come to life. You know what? It might actually be the one case where there are animated corpses, but there is some dispute about whether they are spirit creatures or physical dead things that are brought back to life. Yes. You're welcome, Jan. You're welcome,
Hey, there
Jan.
were a couple of people in the chat room like, what are you talking about? What is the Wilhelm scream? Well, let me show you right now.
No, don't. Yeah, it can... Play it one more time near the microphone. Did you guys hear that?
Yeah. You've heard it. It's been in so many movies as a joke.
As a joke, and in cartoons, and in funny things. Anyways, yes, when Sauron grabs poor Thrain into a wisp of shadow, the Wilhelm scream is the last thing we hear. We also hear an elf die at the Battle of Helm's Deep.
That's right.
And I'm like, where else do we hear it?
Yeah, don't we hear it when Gandalf and everybody fall down
Nope.
in the first Hobbit movie?
No, we don't hear it there. No, not at all.
I'm pretty sure when they
Nope.
and they get crushed by the Goblin King.
I'm wondering if we heard it somewhere in the background of Return of the King in that battle, but I didn't hear that either. But, oh yes, you hear it in Raiders of the Lost Ark too.
So
yes, that's true.
Randall
Yes, you
Lehman
do.
says Elvish blades versus Valerian steel.
Yeah, see, Elvis, there are... The bandwidth that George R.R. Martin has as a writer, as a conceptual creator of a world, a secondary world, the reason why Martin has that bandwidth is because of the influence of Tolkien. So I therefore find it highly illogical that one group of fans would have disdain for the other group of fans. So
Valerian steel is the most prized type of swords in Game of Thrones.
it's like mithril. It's like
it is like but I would
It's
say
most
like
valued.
it's like an elven blade. Like everyone is like
Yeah.
always astounded, but these are elven blades. This is an
Yes.
elven sword. So Valerian steel is the Game of Thrones equivalent of it, and White Walkers is a good is maybe like a combination of the Path of the Dead.
And the
Undead,
Barrow Whites.
And the Barrow Whites.
Yes.
Which the Barrow Whites were not in the movie at all. That's just the
no, the Barrow Whites were not in the Ralph Bakshi animated version of Lord of the Rings, and not in any of Peter Jackson's adaptation, because there was no Tom Bombadil in either film adaptation. So there was no Tom Bombadil as the Deus Ex Machina to save the hobbits from
The
that
one
predicament.
thing I will say is
that is where they got their
okay,
blades.
you know what?
Merry and Pippin got their sharp blades that were effective. Oh, not from Aragorn giving them to them at Weathertop,
Yeah.
but they got them from finding them in the Barrow Downs. They were
Oh, that's-
ancient weapons of the Northern Kingdom of Men.
Okay.
Yeah, so that's. So
I will
you
say
don't know
that.
that.
I will say, okay, one spoiler. Spoiler. Turn off your audio if you don't want the one spoiler.
What? For the Game of
Spoiler in
Thrones episode?
5, 4, 3, 2.
Spoilers begin now.
I love the fact that Bard is the bowman,
Mm-hmm.
and in Game of Thrones, what's his name? Bronn,
Yeah.
the bowman.
Yes.
It's almost like
Bronn.
Game of Thrones actually chose Bronn to be the bowman
Yeah,
because Bard,
I love
like the
Bronn.
name,
He's such
the
a
names
character.
are the names are very similar.
Yeah.
The reasons for existence are very similar.
Yeah.
Like they're just like Bard is just there to serve a certain purpose. Bronn is just there to serve a certain purpose.
Yes.
Like there isn't a Bard doesn't have a quest, right? He's just there. He's a fisherman
Yeah.
who stumbles on the dwarves, and then
Yeah.
he's just Bronn is the same thing. So I love that it's like maybe I should make a T-shirt that says Bard and Bronn Bowman Services or something like that. Archery club.
yes, the Braun and Bard Club of Archery.
Yeah.
That's funny. That's
Okay, spoilers
great.
off. You're good.
You're
good.
back. Come back. Okay.
Bring the audio up.
So
like we're good.
So you see, Peter Jackson sets up a wind lance and never uses it. But then Cersei Lannister and her evil maester, whose name I forget, he invents a wind lance, and then we actually get to see it in use. So there's that point. But there's also a terrific visual influence from an early 80s film, and I'm going to be very careful to introduce you to this film, Justin. When Paramount re-releases Dragon Slayer, okay, with Peter McNichol and the late Sir Ralph Richardson. What an extraordinary performance from him. When you guys see this film and it comes out, yes, Kyburn. Thank you, Ellen Design Kyburn. When it comes out on Blu-ray and it's all gorgeous and remastered, then I'm going to introduce you to Dragon Slayer, and you let me know what you think of Vermithrax versus the scene with Drogon that we just saw, the loot train scene.
Yeah.
The loot train scene.
So I don't know. I got the same vibe as Rohan, the march to Helm's Deep.
Yeah, I got
and
a lot of
then
that, too.
And then the Rohirrim coming to rescue, and then the desolation of Smaug and
Yeah.
the giant fire breathing.
Well, here's
dragon.
the question. Does anybody know why the other two dragons were not there? Why did Daenerys only bring one instead of all
Because
three dragons?
only one person can ride the dragons. Right now, as far as we know, she's the only one that can control a dragon, and that's where her power is sourced from. Everybody that follows Daenerys is respectful of this is the dragon lady, and the dragons obey her. I think what's coming in the near future is that we'll see Jon Snow is a relative of a Targaryen, and I think we'll see Jon Snow be able to control a dragon, and I think we will actually see the epic shot will be Jon Snow and Daenerys on two dragons heading over into battle.
Crazy mega spoiler, crazy.
No, this is just conjecture, but I really think
fan speculation.
I really think that there's only one person can ride the dragon, Daenerys, and that's where all of her power comes from. So I can't wait to see if Jon Snow is a Targaryen, if Jon Snow can ride a dragon and control a dragon. I want to see what happens to all of the people following her.
Yeah.
All of the slave people and everybody following Daenerys. Once they see, if this is true, if Jon Snow can control a dragon, I want to see what happens to them. Will they follow him?
Oh my gosh. Okay. So
will all of her power be depleted? Will all of her respect be depleted when she's no longer the only dragon person?
Makes you wonder. Okay.
So a lot of people in the chat room
Good night,
have not seen Game of Thrones. The rumors are true. It's Lord of the Rings with a lot of nakedness and blood.
Extra gore and violence.
And lots of cursing.
Lots of gore and violence.
But I will say that after the first season, it gets tamer. There's a couple iconic things like the Red Wedding and some other stuff, but everything else after the first season, there isn't as much sex and prostitution and stuff after the first season.
No, we haven't spent any time with Littlefinger in his brothel in a very, very long time.
After the first season,
actually,
it's pretty
I think the last bit of sexual contact that anybody had in this show, which is kind of funny because the show is built around a lot of sexual energy for some reason, because sex sells.
The Walking Dead is definitely more viscerally violent than Game of Thrones.
That's true.
Alan Design says The Walking Dead, which is on AMC, it's not a paid channel. They don't curse as much on Walking Dead, but they do curse.
Podrick.
Yes.
Podrick in season 3, evidently he gets sent to Littlefinger's brothel, and the ladies are so delighted with his performance that they sent him back with his original bag of money, and they didn't charge him. And then Tyrion Lannister and Bronn, I think they want to sit down and have the secrets spilled. They're like, Podrick, why is it you went there to this brothel?
Oh, that's right. That was season 1.
That was season 2 or 3.
Okay.
And I tell you what, that is the last time that we ever bothered going into deeper sexual territory in the early seasons.
Yeah, totally.
You're right. We have kind of left it all behind since then.
Everything.
Since then, yes.
I finally watched it. We've talked about this on previous episode, and it's a weird way I got into Game of Thrones because I was totally not interested in any of it. But I will say that everything that it's known for, the gratuitous sex, the overabundant, the gratuitous violence for like no reason, all of the actors, all of the characters, the big deaths that really kick everything. Everything is in the first season. I was shocked when I got through the end of season 1, which is only 12 episodes or something like that.
Yeah.
And I was like, I know every meme now. Winter is coming. This dude is dead. This dude is dead. This dude is dead. This girl is dead. Like everything that
You didn't know after the first season. You didn't know any of the memes about the Red Wedding. You didn't have that connective tissue in the story.
No,
yet.
but you did.
That came seasons later.
You could the Red Wedding. Yeah, there's a few other iconic things through the series. The Battle of the Bastards, which is just a big epic war scene.
King Joffrey's ultimate fate.
There's the Red Wedding, which I thought was King No spoilers, all right? Let's just say that
I just said
Red
ultimate
Wedding,
fate.
Yeah, the Red Wedding and the Battle of the Bastards are like two of the only things that are iconic. But everything you need to know about Game of Thrones is on the first season. And the worst part of Game of Thrones is in the first season. Once you get past the first season, it mellows out. There's a lot less sex. And the violence after season 1 is very specific, I would say.
Intriguing. We have a really intriguing debate going on about the grossness and the level of violence.
Lewitt Hall says, "Is that a
between
Balrog?"
The Walking Dead and Game of Thrones, and that's a very interesting conversation that you guys are having right there. That's
we just got the Balrog pop, and if you're watching on Facebook, we're streaming in 360 VR. You can spin the camera around.
On your phone. If you're using the Facebook phone app and watching us live, then tip your phone to landscape and go.
And you can see all the other pops that we have. But thank you, Caroline. I can't wait to give you a hug at DragonCon.
This is a very generous gift.
For this is amazing.
It's a super generous gift.
I'm really glad I'm going to DragonCon so I can high five and like this is amazing.
All right, no. Again, with all the excitement that we have as Tolkien fans, spending an hour talking about Game of Thrones. I come back to the original point we talked about at our San Diego Comic-Con panel. A lot of you folks were there. You were there in San Diego with us. And we gave a big presentation in front of hundreds of people. And what did we talk about? After HBO is done with this TV series, A Song of Ice and Fire, and there's no more Game of Thrones, there's going to be a big vacuum. And you said to me later on, yeah, AT&T just bought Warner Brothers, and they're going to want their money back on their investment. So, like I said at Comic-Con, don't be surprised that in the vacuum, next season, after Game of Thrones wraps up and it's all done, there's going to be a big space for big, high fantasy TV series. And
I see you, Brian.
they have the rights. Warner Brothers has the rights to the appendix, all the stories and histories in the back of the appendices. Even though they don't have the rights to the Silmarillion, there's a lot.
They can do a lot.
They can dig a gold mine out of those
Elrond's
pages.
twin sons.
Eladan and Elrohir.
There's so much we can do.
There's
Hey,
so much there's going to dig out, dudes. So
everyone's
I'm telling
complaining.
you.
Look.
telling you.
I totally understand that okay. There's 3 issues with Game of Thrones. There's sex, there's cursing, and there's violence. Okay. First off, violence. If you watch The Walking
what? That
Dead,
mature content?
if you watch The Walking Dead, the violence is the same. If you enjoy Peter Jackson's Brain Dead.
Ah, yes.
So,
there you go.
If you've seen Peter Jackson's non-Lord of the Rings work, and if you watch The Walking Dead, the violence is no more gory than The Walking Dead. Secondly,
Marvels, I agree. Yes, Tolkien's cinematic universe coming soon. It might be called the TCU.
the cursing is I cringe at the amount of cursing in it. It's just weird, right?
Really?
Like you're in a fantasy world and everything is like F this, F that, da da da, blah blah blah. She's a that. He's a that.
The C word gets dropped a few times,
it-
and I don't mean
it-
cancer. I don't mean cancer.
It's
I mean
unnecessary.
there's a.
But the third thing, as someone in the chat room on Facebook just said that they stopped watching after the 3rd episode of season 1 because there was too much rape and sex. I agree. In season 1 there is a lot of rape and sex, but
Too much.
It's too much. But
It's
if you
heavily weird.
if you get past season 1, the rest of the series after season 1
Yeah.
treats sex a lot more conservatively. Now, there is one critical plot point that is sexual. After that,
let's
that's
also-
it. and that's coming to fruition.
But let's
right
also
now.
see that the female characters in the Game of Thrones universe are given challenges that are not so unique from the challenges we have in our primary world with sexism and the overall engine of misogyny. Who ends up spoiler, who ends up sitting on the Iron Throne? A woman. Spoiler,
That's right.
who's got all the dragons and has all the power to change the course of history?
A woman.
A woman. So
who can disappear? Who is the best swordsman
yes.
in the country?
And has learned the secret of ultimate disguise and has been in the Temple of a Thousand Faces.
A woman.
A woman.
And
so,
who is the only person that has ever defeated the Hound? The largest brute
yes.
of any character.
Yes, the only most powerful. There's a woman, Brienne of Tarth. It is
played by Gwendolyn Christie, who is
I love Gwendolyn Christie.
The Chrome Trooper in Star Wars. The Chrome Trooper.
The ultimate trooper?
She's all in silver chrome.
Oh, the Chrome. Well, her name is Captain Phasma.
That's right. That's
Captain Phasma.
Yeah.
You mean the Chrome Trooper. Her name is Phasma. But listen, guys, Justin has a point. People are wondering if there's a counterbalance. And I think I've identified it. All of the ways that misogyny and rape and horrible things happen to women as a gender in the first season, a lot of it has a counterbalance in the way that women are empowered to strike out against the conditions in their world. And I see it in all these characters. Arya Stark, Sansa Stark, Brienne of Tarth, Daenerys Targaryen, Melisandre. What does Melisandre have? She has the ultimate power. to surprisingly bring back to life one of the most important lead characters that everyone dearly loves. Her.
She's a classic old witch
It's
that burns
amazing.
people at the stake
But
and stuff
oh
like
my
that.
God, she's. But how about this? A classic witch that isn't being burned at the stake.
That's right.
She burns others at the
She
stake.
burns other.
This isn't. So there are role reversals of women who lose power and gain tremendous power. Obviously, at the top of that list, Daenerys Targaryen.
And Game of Thrones
tremendous
is
power.
doing for female characters what we thought Peter, Philippa,
So-
and Fran were going to do with Tauriel, which is like take The Hobbit, a story that is only men, all men, nothing but
Yes.
men.
See, Ellen Design says, good point, Cliff. I think it's great that all of the women are now all so powerful. It's fantastic. Did I mention Cersei Lannister? Yes. Queen of the Andals, defender of the Seven Kingdoms. And her brother comes in and says, 3 at best. Right? I love all these female
I
characters
tell you,
in Game of Thrones.
the other thing
just
that I
love them.
noticed, someone tweeted us a picture, or I think posted on our Facebook page, a picture of the Witch King's castle. What's the name of it? With the green thing that comes out.
The Witch King's castle.
Yeah.
Oh, it's not Cirith Ungol, but it's Minas Morgul,
Minas Morgul,
which used to be Minas
looks,
Ithil.
looks just like the castle where the Dragonstone is.
Minas Morgul? Yeah, there is a design element that's similar to
Like
Dragonstone.
it's got these like juts coming out that you can see that the castle that Daenerys is in now, that Jon is at now. It takes its visual influence from Minas Morgul.
Yeah, but Justin, you say you want to just jump from season 1 of Game of Thrones and go right now to season 7. No, Ellen points out it's why this season has been so good that the women are all finally coming into their own after years of hardship. I think you as a viewer watching those years of hardship, seasons 2, 3, 4, and 5, by the time you get through it all, you now appreciate these reversals of fortune for these women more, and you do appreciate them now.
Yeah.
Because you sat through that show. So there you go. How about that? You guys, we're having a Tolkien show, and all we're talking about is Game of Thrones.
Because Game of Thrones is at the point now where they are taking a lot from Tolkien, and I have a feeling that in the next several episodes, there will be more influences from Tolkien, and this is not. I feel like this is not the only episode. I think it's just going to get more and more Tolkien.
Maybe
Because
no,
George Martin has not
so.
written any of this.
George
this
Martin
season is not based on a book.
George Martin has written this stuff. We're following story beats that he gave to David Benioff and D.B. Weiss, the showrunners for HBO.
But it's not a book that anybody's read.
True, but Martin will write his books based upon these story elements that we're seeing now.
Yeah.
His books that will...
Look, and if you're going to rip off
if they ever happen.
If you're going to rip off anything, take from Lord of the Rings and The Hobbit.
Okay.
It's really good. The Lord of the Rings and The Hobbit did fantasy. They set the standard for fantasy. You know, it's just like how every space movie is influenced by Star Wars visually. Like, I have no problem with Game of Thrones borrowing from Tolkien's Peter Jackson's Lord of the Rings because he did it so good.
Yeah.
He did it so good. So if you're gonna steal from the best.
There you go. If you're gonna steal it from the best. But how about that? That when interviewed, Mr. George R.R. Martin himself has not spoken so kindly about the lingering legacy of The Lord of the Rings. I find that's a natural response from him because he knows automatically by going into this area of what he's writing, he knows he's always going to be in the shadow of Tolkien.
And that's what every writer has struggled with.
Mount Fuji is the reference. Remember? When we interviewed Terry Pratchett for Ringers, Lord of the Fans, our documentary, he said, Professor Tolkien is often described as being like the way Mount Fuji is always portrayed in Japanese paintings. That you always see it in the background. No matter what painter, what artist, and they're trying to paint something, there's always Mount Fuji in the distance, somewhere in the background. And even in those paintings where you do not see Mount Fuji, it's because the artist is standing on Mount Fuji in their painting. And so this is the inference is that Tolkien's presence is felt over all high fantasy construction and world building and, fantasy mythology world building in general. You guys, chew on that. That's red meat for the conversation today.
Give us a
that.
Skype. We've turned the Skype on. We've turned the hotline on. The
Yeah.
information is scrolling above us.
Skype is on.
Skype is on. Give us a call. If you've call if you've seen the latest episode of Game of Thrones. We really want to talk about this episode. We want to compare notes of the influences from this last episode of Game of Thrones.
Do you know what I noticed a big difference was? Because Peter Jackson had a PG-13 limit, and he showed Lake Town being burned and destroyed, we did not see a lot of corpses. It's interesting, but there weren't any. I didn't see any corpses. Even after the battle was over, the next morning, you see a lot of survivors washing up on shore, and a lot of really
I feel like we got a lot of
stagey comedy with Alfred.
but we got a lot
Real
of dead
stagey.
people in Lord of the Rings.
You got why is it in the Desolation of Smaug, which ended up getting PG-13, and then Battle of the Five Armies Extended gets an R rating, we still don't see burned, crispy bodies at Lake Town? What do you see in the loot train attack in this episode of Game of Thrones? Very specific ash. Like, at least twice. Twice we get close-ups of what's left of a human body. Nothing but whoosh, and it just dissolves. And I'm like, whoa. If Peter Jackson felt he could do an R-rated Battle of the Five Armies, which he did in Extended Edition, why couldn't he stick some crispy bodies in that dragon attack sequence? Which should have been right at the end of Desolation from the prior year. Should have, could have, would have.
Leia says if we ever get a Silmarillion or Children of Hurin adaptation, it would be difficult to keep it PG-13. That's why. That's
true.
That's why we think that AT&T, Warner Brothers, and HBO will be working on a Tolkien series on HBO. I think it's too dangerous to make a rated R film. There's too much online. But if the technology is caught up where they can do Smaug level visual effects on a television budget, how much did the Hobbit, the Smaug scenes in the Hobbit cost to make? Millions.
Yeah.
What is the budget of Game of Thrones? It's $500,000 an episode. So.
Oh no, it's not.
It's $5 million.
That's better.
It's $5 million.
That's
episode.
better.
So there is the fact that they can do Smaug level graphics and effects on a smaller budget means it's time for Middle Earth TV shows. The Children of Hurin.
Yes, Sarah Vorhauer says they had crispy bodies in A New Hope.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah, they had poor Uncle Owen and Aunt Beru sitting there looking like extra crispy.
They had undead people all over Lord of the Rings in all of the movies.
Yeah, why couldn't they show crispy bodies? Anyways.
Yeah.
Dunkirk is rated PG-13, but people say it still feels like an R rating. Do you know what?
Dunkirk feels like PG-13.
Dunkirk did feel pretty intense, but maybe that was because of Hans Zimmer beating me over the head with that score. Tick 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 tock 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 tick tock tick tock tick tock tick tock. Okay. Anyways,
are there any clocks in Lord of the Rings?
In Lord of the Rings? I've never heard. Only in The Hobbit. The Hobbit, there's a mention of a clock on the mantelpiece.
Is there?
Because Gandalf and Thorin and company leave a note for Bilbo under the clock on the mantle. And they expected Bilbo was going to dust the mantle and would have seen the note. So it's in the books, but not in the films.
It's a clock.
I've never seen a single timepiece of any kind except for a sundial. Somewhere in Rivendell, I did see a sundial once.
Yeah.
In a scene in Rivendell, maybe when Arwen runs back to her father and says, "You didn't tell me you saw a child in my future." Remember when she says that in Return of the King?
Was there a clock?
There was a sundial in Rivendell somewhere. But I've never seen a clock or other timepieces. You guys want to Skype us? Barlam and Butterbur. You can find us as Barlam and Butterbur, or even just find us as the
Ellen
One Ring.
Design confirms
the One Ring Net.
Bilbo has a clock in his house. I'm really excited.
Okay, Ellen has seen it because she pays attention to the art department stuff. I didn't see it.
I'm really excited
Sorry, I should
for
have seen
where
it.
Game of Thrones is going.
We're all excited for where Game of Thrones is going.
The more Tolkien influence, the better, I think.
I think that if Game of Thrones continues to succeed as it is doing, that it will help guarantee that in the future, whatever Silmarillion we do get, if it ever is licensed by the estate of Tolkien, it should be an anthology TV series. I think that is the guaranteed direction that will support the Silmarillion. Because look at what's in the pages. It can't be made into films, except for our crazy... we devised 6 or 7 films in a big franchise, but they're going to be too expensive to make that way. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Anthology TV series is where it's at. That's my final verdict on that.
Arianto Vanamino says, if you pause Return of the King during the battle, you can see Gandalf's watch.
Gandalf's watch.
He would have a watch, too.
Does Gandalf actually have a watch somewhere? Is there a mistake that Ian McKellen is wearing a watch? Are you telling me there's a big continuity, a blooper? Like, what do you call that, a gaffe?
Yeah.
What's the word? An anachronistic gaffe. I didn't think that the word would come to me that
I
easily.
think...
But anyways,
look,
I'd like to see that.
I have a feeling over the next few weeks, we might have some more conversations about Game of Thrones, because I just feel that there's more Tolkien influence in Game of Thrones in the coming weeks. Especially as you start to see
of course.
The peoples unite.
Of course.
Just as in Lord of the Rings, the peoples unite against the common foe. And I think you're going to start to see some of that happen. So we'll see.
I hope so.
Yeah.
I hope so.
We never saw anyone ride a dragon in The Hobbit, did we?
No. No one's ever.
So the Game of Thrones...
George R.R. Martin.
The Game of Thrones is already given us stuff that The Hobbit didn't give us, and the show is to be commended on some of that.
I would agree.
Some of that stuff.
I would agree.
So, great conversation. I hope we didn't spoil too much.
No, this is a great conversation.
In fact, after you watch the episode, you'll see that we didn't spoil anything. And there are people on the Facebook page that were angry at us for posting spoilers. They actually ended up watching the episode, and they came back and they apologized and said, "Oh, no worries about those spoilers. It wasn't a spoiler." So the picture that we posted on our Facebook page is of Girion, right?
Girion, Lord of Dale. Yes.
Yeah. Thorin did stand on Smaug's head, though. That's as close as we got.
Look,
to anything.
In the year 2005, Lev Grossman of Time magazine called Martin the American Tolkien. So, it has been forever branded over George R.R. Martin's head that he's always walking in the footsteps of the professor.
That's right.
So I'm really not the least bit surprised that we're having these conversations about comparing these works. There is, I think, a lot of interesting visual influence of the Desolation of Smaug, particularly, I think, the opening of Battle of the Five Armies, on what the filmmakers were trying to make for this episode of Game of Thrones. But there might even be more of an influence from other dragon films from the past. But I do find that very interesting. One of the bigger influences on George Martin's career is his billing himself as RR with his initials in between his name. I mean, he could have just gone through his whole...
We asked him about that. I think we have video of him talking about...
Oh, you'll have to dig that out. You'll have to dig that out.
We actually asked, before Game of Thrones was huge,
yes,
we actually found George R.R. Martin, and you asked him about the RR in his name.
And I don't even
we should find that thing. Anyway, this has
Seriously.
been a great episode. Thank you for watching on Facebook and staying with us in this wonderful 360. Let us know in the comments if you want to see more 360 video, if you enjoyed it, or would you rather us go back to the classic Torn Tuesday with the background and the graphics and stuff like that. Let us know, Facebook, because we want to make sure that you guys want to watch. Thank you, everyone in the regular chat room, for joining us. We're here every Tuesday at 5 p.m. Pacific, live from Meltdown Comics Hollywood.
Live. Hey, glow-in-the-dark Tweed, I can tell you exactly where I'm standing in The Return of the King. When you're in the chapter, The Sacrifice of Faramir, and right after Gandalf says to Faramir, "Your father loves you, Faramir. He will remember it before the end." As soon as Gandalf says that, and they go out the great gates, and they go on this wide shot with Minas Tirith in the background, all those horses going across the horizon, which was quite impressive. Then you cut to a crane shot that is sweeping past the face of myself, standing next to the one dude in Gondor who doesn't have his helmet on. It's the guy with the blondish hair who has a black cape over his shoulders, like Captain Phasma has a cape. But that one dude standing next to me, I forget what his name was. His character had a name in the script. He's like a Baragond type of character. But he runs out to the Citadel when everybody runs out to that where the dead tree is, and Faramir's dragged out there, and they all run up to him, and so does Pippin and Lord Denethor, and he has some dialogue in that scene. But if you want to see me freeze frame it, and I'm standing next to that dude with his helmet off and his blonde hair is out, and he's got the cape, and I'm the guy right next to him with my little white beard dyed as black as soot. That's what I'm looking like. That's me in the shot. But anyways, that was fun.
If you can't find Cliff
awesome.
in the DVD, you can find him on Twitter.
Yes.
QuickBeam2000. Is that also your Instagram name?
My Instagram and my Twitter are the same. QuickBeam2000. That is correct. QuickBeam.
And as always, you can follow us on Instagram, Periscope, Twitter, YouTube, and Facebook at The One Ring Net, all one word. And yeah, look for us at DragonCon. This might be our last Hobbit party at DragonCon. We don't know yet.
Really, it might be. Yes,
make
it might
sure
be.
you go to the Shire party. It's going to be amazing as always, and dancing and music and party and drinks and stuff like that.
Yes.
But yeah, we'll see you guys at DragonCon. I'm going to be driving around. I hope to maybe I'll see some of you. I know there's some of you in Minnesota too. Anyway, we're here next Tuesday and every Tuesday, 5 p.m. Pacific. And thanks for joining us on Facebook 360. Until next time, from all the way from Sweden. Hello, Sweden.
Hey there, Sweden. How you doing there?
Kay, look like Justin looked straight at me there. I looked straight at you, Kay. I'm going to put in the movie and look for you, Cliff. That's what you should do now. Look for Cliff, and maybe we'll find a screenshot to show you next time. All right, we'll see you next time.
Good to see you on this 360 super experience of Torn
Bye-bye.
Tuesday. Bye, guys. Thanks a lot. Woohoo! Oof, it's warm in here now.
It is. That was a good show.
That was a great show. Yes.
This 360 thing's really interesting.